Why, hello there. Welcome to episode 101 of Dank Times, Danker Thoughts. It's a wild time to be alive, people. You turn on the news, videos of kids cutting their dicks off in history class, and on the flip side, you see a bunch of Bible fuckers building Noah's Ark outside Disney World, Florida. So, what a fucking time to be alive. It's nonsense. It's wild. We're still talking about the Oscar slap. Whereas, Ukraine and Russia still going on. Like, there's actual chemical warfare happening and mass murders happening over there. And just, it's awful out there. It's awful. War crime after war crime after war crime. And 99% of those war crimes are done by Russia. Ukraine isn't completely guilt-free here, but I think that they should be able to do almost anything they want to do to those Russian soldiers, even though I do have empathy and compassion for most of the Russian soldiers that are in Ukraine, because everyone that I listened to, it sure sounds like they had no fucking idea what they were getting into. They were given a bunch of lies and misinformation and fake patriotism about Russia being greeted as heroes, as saviors, and that they were going to rescue Ukraine from Nazification. Obviously, common sense, the villains here. They are the enemy. But you can't group every single soldier and say, well, they're the same soldiers that did the mass killings in Bucha or Buka, whatever it is. That's horrifying. Just horrifying. I cannot believe that Putin is still walking around just fine. I can't believe no one pulled a Muammar Gaddafi on his ass. But what the fuck do I know? And so you would think that NATO, the EU, America would be pushing towards a peace resolution. I don't think it's going to help peace resolution if the head of the US is calling the head of Russia all these names, although most of them are true. It doesn't bode well for future peace, is my point. So then you would think, okay, maybe cooler heads will prevail in NATO. Nope. They still want to provocate Russia by adding more countries to NATO. The same countries that Russia said just a month ago, if they join, you think Ukraine's bad, you ain't seen nothing yet. If Finland and Sweden join NATO, ooh, baby, you ain't gonna like it. That's what Russia said. So now, Finland and Sweden are on a fast track to joining NATO. Now, to me, that's good and bad. I'm no expert on NATO. It seems sometimes they're toothless, spineless, and other times they seem to get the job done when they work together. But with this whole Russia-Ukraine thing, even Zelensky's like, I'm not going to join NATO. I'm giving up hope on them. So whatever he wants, NATO is not giving him for the most part. And instead of maybe looking at, well, what should NATO actually do? What should we as a collective do here? Maybe we did something down the road to poke the Russian bear, so to speak. And again, I'm not giving Russia off the hook here. There is no excuse whatsoever for what Russia's doing in Ukraine. Nothing at all. Nothing. That it is evil, it is wrong, but to not look in the mirror is, I think, short-sighted, which is America's MO, but I thought surely the Europeans would be more intelligent than us, but no. So, Finland and Sweden are due to join NATO in the next coming weeks, if not months. Now, there isn't the history between Russia, Finland, and Sweden as it is to Ukraine. Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union, so that's why Putin and a lot of Russians think that Ukraine is still technically Russian. Finland and Sweden were never part of the Soviet Union, so they don't have that history. However, they have been warring ever since the countries have been around. That's not new. But again, one of the things Russia said that they didn't want to happen was to have Ukraine and Georgia enter NATO. Well, we let them both in. Well, we didn't let Ukraine in, but we've been trying to. That's what we want. That's what Europe wants. And instead of maybe meeting Putin maybe 10, 12 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago, okay, here's what we want, here's what you want, let's negotiate. But no, it's just finger pointing and poking the bear. Again, I'm no expert on NATO, but my opinion, this is the worst time to be adding nations into NATO. However, saying that, the polls are showing in Finland and Sweden that the Finnish and Swedes want to get into NATO. You obviously know why the Finns and the Swedes want to get in NATO right now in the last month, whereas before Russia, Ukraine, they didn't want to. That's low-hanging fruit. But again, it's short-sighted, in my opinion. It's short-term thinking that's going to come back and bite us in the ass later, just like Ukraine, just like Georgia, just like Chechnya, just like... Again, a broken record here. I don't understand why trying to negotiate and meet nations halfway on things, and you have to give up some things so that the other side, doesn't invade another nation. I think that's okay. I think that's how diplomacy works. I think that's how progress works. But what the fuck do I know? But let me go ahead and play a little bit here from Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar. They were talking about just this, and I implore you to listen to their whole segment about it. They talk about New York Times article the other day about the history of adding nations to NATO. Well, contemporary in the last, really since the early 2000s, the last 20 years.
And we are missing the exact debate that we lacked in 2008. Let's put this up there on the screen. And this is important because this debate mirrors what it is today. Fiona Hill, who is herself a Russia hater, actually says that she warned George W. Bush in the Oval Office in 2008 that offering Ukraine NATO membership would be seen as a provocation by Putin. Then, Vice President Dick Cheney responded by asking her if she hated freedom. As Mehdi Hasan says, sounds like familiar rhetoric to some of us today.
So what I like about that clip is it illustrates the lack of dialogue. We can't even talk to one another about this in our own country. If you talk to some people about, there is no excuse for what Russia is doing in Ukraine. However, it's kind of short-sighted and a little lazy not to at least look at NATO's past, Europe's past, and our own past history to figure out, did we kind of do anything to help accelerate this war, or even to kind of water it a little bit once the seeds were planted? You know what I'm saying? Excuse the bad metaphors, obviously. And some people would say, oh, so you think that it's our fault? Do you think this is America's fault? Like, no, that's not what we're saying at all. That's not what I'm saying at all, you dumb fuck. I'm saying, why can't we look at what happened? And that way we don't make the same goddamn mistakes. Again, America seems to be react instead of plan. It's easy for us to react to something atrocious or horrible when it happens. But to plan for it, to say, you know what? We've been pushing NATO on Russia for some time, and we know how they feel about it, and we're not stopping, and neither is Europe. So let's have a contingency plan for what happens. And we didn't have it. We did not have it. We talked about it a little bit leading up to it, and to that I will give credit to Biden and his administration. I certainly didn't believe it. However, sanctions don't seem to be working. Honestly, they're not. It seems that they're hurting the common person, which is what I was always afraid about. Sanctions, historically, rarely ever bring down a government. Instead, the people in the government, who are usually corrupt and rich fucks already, just hoard, and whatever's left in their country, they just sit on like a fat dragon on a big lump of gold coin. Whereas the common people, the working class, are the ones that suffer. It's happened. I mean, just look at World War II history. Look what we did to Germany and Japan leading up to World War II. And you tell me they did that. Well, those sanctions did not play a part in starting World War II from their perspective. So I have no fucking idea. Again, I am no expert on this. I am a skeptic, though, and I have to look at both sides to stay sane. I think it is, again, short-term thinking to only think in the now. You can't always think of the future because you'll go crazy because you can't plan for everything, but you at least can have a contingency plan, like I said. You can at least try to draw up blueprints of how to handle this. Or if things are already ready to go on fire and all they need is a spark, maybe, just maybe, instead of waiting for that spark to happen and then try to play catch up as the house is burning down, you instead say, okay, before the spark is lit here, let's see, can we get some shit out of here? Can we maybe throw some water on some of the shit? Like, what's happening? How did we get to this point so that we can try to diffuse the situation before it leads to another fucking war? And I'm going to play one more clip from that episode with Crystal and Sagar, where Sagar talks about even back in the 1996 days, right? Is it 1996? Yes.
And I just keep coming back to George Kennan, the father of U.S. containment policy in the Cold War, a person who understood Russia probably better than any American for or since, wrote this in 1996. Let's put this up there on the screen, please, which is this. Expanding NATO would be the most fateful error of American policy in the entire post-Cold War era. Such a decision may be expected to inflame the nationalistic, anti-Western, militaristic tendencies in Russian opinion, to have an adverse effect on the development of Russian democracy, to restore the atmosphere of the Cold War to East-West relations, to impel Russian foreign policy in directions decidedly not to our liking. Last but not least, it might make it much more difficult, if not impossible, to secure the Russian Duma's ratification of the START II treaty and to achieve further reductions of nuclear weaponry. Basically, every sentence in that came true. Every single sentence.
So let me just wrap up all of this NATO, Finland, Sweden, Russia, Ukraine, America nonsense by saying, again, I am no expert in all this, but I just look at our history and I use the best sources that I can find and I make a judgment call. And my judgment call is this: you keep poking the bear like we did, and the bear's going to react. However, again, there is no excuse, there is no reasoning. There's nothing at all that would excuse what Russia is doing to the country of Ukraine. Nothing at all. Nothing. Anything that NATO has done to Russia and their paranoia that is Vladimir Putin, there is nothing that excuses the atrocities that are happening. Nothing at all. So now with that, let's move on to some other fun topics, such as Greg Abbott, that crippled bitch, sending a bunch of migrants, a bus full of them, to DC and telling them, don't you ever come back here. And I think even DeSantis said, don't you come to Florida. So, fun times to be an American. A bus carrying migrants from Texas arrived in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday morning after Texas Governor Greg Abbott last week announced plans to send them from his state's southern border to the nation's capital. Abbott said during a press conference last week the migrants would be voluntarily sent to Washington so that Biden could immediately address the needs of the people that they are allowing to come across our border. Yes, because they've never come across the border in any other time in our history. Yes, it's only been under Biden. Abbott also ordered the state to charter flights to transport migrants to the nation's capital after they have been processed by the Department of Homeland Security. The Biden administration earlier this month rescinded Title 42. Side note, I'm not for that. I think that's ridiculous. You don't have a plan set in place. You can't do that. A Trump-era immigration rule that prevented people seeking asylum from getting an immediate hearing if they were coming from a country with a communicable disease such as coronavirus. The White House last week dismissed Abbott's plans to send migrants to Washington as a publicity stunt. Well, it wasn't a publicity stunt. He actually went through with it. I am not aware of what authority the governor would be doing that under, Jen Psaki told reporters. I think it's pretty clear this is a publicity stunt. His own office admits that a migrant would need to voluntarily be transported, and he can't compel them to because, again, enforcement of our country's immigration laws lies with the federal government, not the states. In a statement on Wednesday, Psaki slammed Abbott's immigration policies, saying his unnecessary and redundant inspections of trucks. So that's another story. Trent, I can't believe this fucking Abbott, man. Again, if that tree would have just landed on his neck instead of his spine, you know? And it's we wouldn't be dealing with this fucking shit. I mean, he's causing hour-long delays to prove a fucking point. He's ruining people's lives. The redundant inspections of trucks transiting ports of entry between Texas and Mexico are causing significant disruptions to the food and automobile supply chains, delaying manufacturing, impacting jobs, and raising prices for families in Texas and across the country. Exactly. He doesn't give a fuck. I mean, that's what I will never understand about Republicans and Democrats that do these publicity stunts to basically get the people that were already going to vote for them to vote for them. Any diehard anti-immigration Republicans that saw this story and cheered on Abbott we're going to vote for Abbott regardless of this. I don't think Abbott gained any voters. He just didn't lose a core number of his followers that were never going to leave him ever. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. You're holding on to the people who are never going to leave you. It's like a little baby koala hanging on to mama. It's not going to leave. It's comfortable there. It likes the eucalyptus. Even though it smells like shit, they like it. Much like Greg Abbott, they smell and stink of shit. And they like it. They nuzzle up to it. They rub it in their face. Local businesses and trade associations are calling on Governor Abbott to reverse this decision because trucks are facing lengthy delays exceeding 5 hours at some border crossings, and commercial traffic has dropped by as much as 60%, Psaki continued. The continuous flow of legitimate trade and travel and custom and border protection's ability to do its job should not be obstructed. Governor Abbott's actions are impacting people's jobs and the livelihoods of hardworking American families. Duh! Abbott is facing re-election and is likely to face Democratic challenger Beto O'Rourke. Well, he's going to win. Abbott, I'm saying. I mean, Beto's going to get trounced. I mean, good God. I consider myself a progressive moderate, and I can't stand Beto. If Abbott focused on solutions instead of stunts, then Texas could have made real progress on the issue over the last 7 years, O'Rourke said. Well, I don't disagree with you there, Beto. So yes, I mean, again, there is a fucking war and war crimes happening that's dominating some of our news, but now we also have this bullshit. Like publicity stunts by fucking idiots in Texas so that other fucking idiots in Washington, D.C. get all worked up. And then you have two sides just going at each other over something stupid. So stupid. Whereas real people, immigrants or not, are getting screwed here just for political points. It's ridiculous. No wonder we're the laughing stock, as we should be. I mean, just the entitlement that we have. Specifically, the goddamn boomers. No, I'm not going to go on an age rant. I won't do it. I've almost lasted, how long has this been going on? Almost 20 minutes. I almost went 20 minutes without making fun of the boomers. I think I did pretty good this time. I think I deserve at least a participation trophy. But anyway, there's real shit happening in the news. And instead, you have a bus full of migrants being driven across a country they've never seen before. And you have a crippled Professor X reject wannabe in Texas blocking trade routes and making fucking semis wait 5 hours to deliver legitimate goods to, again, prove a point to people that were already like, yeah, Greg, we'll vote for you no matter what. Greg Abbott could, on live TV, line up a whole family of migrants and just blow them away with a shotgun. He's like, it's either me or Beto or Rourke. Who's it going to be? The people that were going to vote for him are going to vote for him no matter what, even if he did that shit. When Donald Trump said, I could go out on First Avenue in New York, whatever avenue it was, it doesn't matter. He could go to Times Square and shoot someone in the head. His supporters would still vote for him. Of course they would. There are some people that will follow a cult leader no matter what. And it's on both sides. Ugh. I mean, it's predominantly on the right, don't get me wrong, but it does exist on the left and on the progressive sides as well. I like to think I'm not like that. There are some things that even someone that I hold as a saint, like Bernie Sanders, if I saw a video of Bernie Sanders clubbing a baby seal to death with a aborted migrant fetus, I would say, you know what, Bernie? I think you crossed the line. I can't support you anymore. But maybe I just have common sense. I don't know. But let's move on to some other fun stories. Well, we're staying in the state of Texas for this story. Texas woman faces a murder charge. Oh my God, what did she do? Kill her children, shoot her husband, vote? What did she do? Texas woman faces murder charge for alleged self-induced abortion. Oh, was it her own or was it someone else's? What happened? Authorities in Texas say they've charged a 26-year-old woman with murder for allegedly causing the death of an individual by self-induced abortion. Lizelle Herrera, of course it's a poor woman of color, was arrested Thursday and held at the Starr County Jail in Rio Grande City, near Mexico, until Saturday, said La Frontera Fund, an abortion assistance group in the Rio Grande Valley that campaigned for her release. Well, thank God that she has some help. Herrera was arrested and served with the indictment on the charge of murder after Herrera did then and there intentionally and knowingly cause the death of an individual by self-induced abortion, Sheriff Major Carlos Delgado said in a statement. Authorities didn't clarify whether they're accusing Herrera of having an abortion or helping someone else to have the procedure. La Frontera Fund founder Ricky Gonzalez told Reuters that Herrera had miscarried at a hospital and allegedly confided to hospital staff that she had attempted to induce her own abortion, and she was reported to the authorities by hospital administration or staff. Fucking snitches get stitches. The bond was set at, God help us all, the bond was set at $500,000. I'm going to repeat that. A bond for an abortion, $500,000. Are we okay with this as a country? I just can't believe it. However, before I lose faith in humanity and just start pulling a Michael Douglas from falling down, the next day, Texas District Attorney to drop murder charge in the self-induced abortion case. A Texas District Attorney announced Sunday his office will drop a murder charge against a woman, Lizelle Herrera, for her self-induced abortion. So she was held in jail from Thursday to Sunday. Wild. Wild. Gocha Alan Ramirez, District Attorney for Duval, Jim Hogg, and Starr County, said his office will file to dismiss the murder charges against Herrera. In reviewing applicable Texas law, it is clear that Ms. Herrera cannot and should not be prosecuted for the allegations against her. The issues surrounding this matter are clearly contentious. However, based on Texas law and the facts presented, it is not a criminal matter. Pretty goddamn scary, nonetheless. Pretty goddamn scary. And even if you think that abortion is murder, do you really approve of that story? Do you really approve of this? Someone who isn't you, that has not your life at all, someone who's completely different than you. Most of you have had massive privileges this other individual will never get. And she did what she wanted to do with her body. You do what you want to do with your body. And if something so personal, like a miscarriage, or it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter what it is. It's your body, so it is personal no matter what. Leads to a $500,000 bond, being arrested for murder, being held in jail for a couple days, and it's up to the whims of a DA. I mean, come on. I don't care. Blue, red, green, purple, gray, who gives a fuck? It doesn't matter what political party you're at or what your religion is. Surely, people that have any level of compassion, any level of empathy, or just whatever that emotion is for staying the fuck out of other people's businesses, whatever that emotion is called, surely you can understand that their body, their rules, right? Right? And I'm a white man saying that. And I'm not no cuck. I just got some ass over the weekend with a woman of color, okay? I'm not saying this to be woke. I'm just me and it works, okay? Maybe being woke is the problem here. They don't take you seriously, but that's a whole other topic. Again, a word that was used for a good cause got fucking taken over and abused, and now people say woke like it's the weak-ass shit that you could ever be. Huh. Only in America. But anyway, what the fuck are we talking about? Yeah, if you're okay with this, is my point. If you are okay with a 26-year-old woman that had that case happen to her, if you're okay with her being charged with murder and going to jail, I mean, I'm not angry at you. I disagree strongly with you. But if anything, I have great sadness for you. It's not pity. I don't pity you. But I'm just sad. Like something had to have happened to you in your past. Some trauma that you either haven't touched on it yet, or maybe you have and you're working through it, but you haven't reached a breakthrough, or you could still be oblivious to it. I'm not sure, but surely believing in something like that. And it's just, it is some insecurity on your part. I hope I'm not sounding preachy or talking down to you or an elitist, but we've all had traumas, people. I know I have a myriad of them. Most people have too. Some monstrously amount, unfortunately. Some work through it, some don't. Some are not even aware until it's too late and it's already kind of cancered their life. But people who are so pro-life that they want women to go to jail, doctors to go to jail for murder. I mean, you want to look in the mirror, is what I'm saying. Why do you think this way? What happened? Were you in a bad relationship? Did something awful happen to you as a child? Unfortunately, a lot of these guesses are very common in this country, particularly with women, young women. I have heard the most horrific stories from family members, from friends, women that I've been on dates with, and Christ, it's not something to be taken lighthearted. But to use that wrath or that anger or that unresolved trauma in such a way that you're wishing jail time, felonies, in some instances death for women who are not you. And you want them to die. You want clinics to be bombed. You want every child to be born no matter what, under any circumstances. You can call that God told you so. You could say religion told you that, but I read the Bible a few times, people. I grew up in a very evangelical Christian church, school, whatever. And believe you me, abortion was talked about every now and then. And to put it mildly, they were not a fan. So I can tell you from experience, and I have actually read the Bible, New James Version, the other one, the NIV, that's New International Version. And I read the second one. Then I think I read, and it doesn't matter, but I have read two different versions of the Bible. None of it mentions abortion. They don't even allude to it. All I'm saying is, don't let your personal decisions affect other people. Don't force that shit, okay? Work on yourself. Get help. Mental help. Emotional help. Spiritual help. Whatever. But for the love of God, let's talk about something fun. I personally have no issue or problem with the media or politicians talking about Hunter Biden and his laptop and whatever else. I'm okay with that. We need to talk about it. We need to talk about corruption. We need to talk about that Ukrainian, was it an electrical company? Or there was some kind of power company in Ukraine that had Hunter Biden on the board of directors, even though he didn't do a goddamn thing for him, allegedly. And I think his father, our current president, kind of looked the other way. But then again, you know, Joe's got other important things happening in the world. He can't be following around his crack son. So again, I have no problem with that as long as you talk about Trump's kids, Joe Manchin's daughter, the Clinton's daughter, if she ever gets into some shit, the Obama kids, if they ever get into some shit, the Bush daughters. Again, you have to be fair. And when you're comparing what Hunter Biden did to what just came through with Jared Kushner, that motherfucker Kushner has got $2 billion from a fund controlled by the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS. You know, the same cunt who killed, dismembered, and, oh, I mean, get to the whole story. He kidnapped him, he murdered him, and dismembered the critic, journalist, Saudi dissident, and Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. I still can't believe that the U.S. has done nothing against Saudi Arabia for retribution for that murder. I understood it under Trump, because Trump's nuts. He hates the press. If it was up to him, he probably would be hanging journalists in the street. I get that. But when the Democrats took over, I thought for sure, they would investigate it. Nope. Because Saudi Arabia is still our best ally in the Middle East. even though they are genociding Yemens. We are giving money to Saudi Arabia and giving weapons to Saudi Arabia to do just that. And then we look the other way as they push gay people off buildings and tell women, not only can you not drive, but you can't be seen in public. And if we're going to rape or stone you in public, it's our culture, that's our tradition. We'll look the other way. But now, Jared Kushner, who, by the way, failed in everything he did in the White House. He and his wife, is it Ivanka? Is that the daughter? I don't know. Trump probably fucked her, so who knows? Fox News. It's all Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden, Hillary, Hillary, Hillary. Go on CNN, MSNBC. They don't cover Hunter Biden at all, which is a fail. They try to hide it, especially during the election. And now when you have Kushner getting $2 billion from Saudi Arabia for God knows what, does it even say what it's for? By the way, and yeah, Fox News ain't covering it, is my point. Let's see. The New York Times reported that MBS has overruled the objections of the financial advisors to the Saudi Arabian Sovereign Wealth Fund, approving a $2 billion investment in Kushner's Virgin private equity fund, Affinity Partners. So it's just giving him $2 billion. Kushner has zero experience in operating such a fund. Prior to becoming an aide to his father-in-law, Donald Trump, when he was president, Kushner ran his family's commercial real estate business after his father was convicted and imprisoned. Let's not forget about that. According to the New York Times story, the Saudi fund's financial advisors warned against giving the money to Kushner on multiple grounds. However, the Crown Prince loved him, and he overruled. Kushner had told the Saudi fund advisors he had intended and expected to raise $7 billion for his fledgling private equity firm. Yet, to date, the Saudis appear to be the primary and only investors. According to Security and Exchange Commission filings, Kushner Affinity Partners has $2.5 billion totally invested. $2 billion came from MBS in Saudi Arabia. The other $500 million is unknown. Well, Jesus Christ, come on. It's so disgusting. When he was a senior aide in the White House, Kushner soft-pedaled condemnation of Khashoggi's brutal killing and Saudi military mayhem in Yemen to usher through mega-million arm deals with the Saudis. He also continued to pursue a close association and friendship with MBS. Those are some of the valid reasons critics see the Saudi Kushner's investment more as blatant payoff for past favors or a bribe for future favors should Trump be back in the Oval Office in 2024. But yes, let's keep talking about the Hunter Biden laptop, which we should. We should. There's something like 80,000 images on there, which, again, if you're cracked out in a hotel room getting a rim job from a prostitute, you're going to take a bunch of photos. But I've seen some of the photos. I don't think most crack addicts take as many photos as Hunter Biden did with a crack pipe in your mouth or a needle in your arm or crack paraphernalia strewn across the bed. Most crack addicts don't do this. That's why I think possibly it could be a setup. Possibly he was just joking around, having a good time. Because again, when you're poor and you're crack addicted, it's sad. But when you're rich and powerful and you're crack addicted, oh, it's fun. Let's joke about it. Let's talk about it on the news. I'm all for looking into corruption with people in power and their families and their kids. You have to, but you have to do it equally. Joe Biden should say to the Justice Department, feel free to investigate Hunter, but we're also going to investigate the Trumps. We're going to investigate Joe Manchin's whore daughter. We're going to look at whoever we have to look at because it should be even across the board. But is it going to be? I doubt it. I doubt it. We're just going to keep hearing about the same shit during the election when it's Trump or DeSantis or it's some unknown against Biden or some unknown in the Democratic field. It's all going to be about Hillary's emails. This party doesn't know what to do with security. And Hunter Biden's laptop. And then you're going to lambast the Republicans, which deservedly so. I know I like to say there's bad people on both sides, which there are, but it's overwhelmingly more so on the Republican side. I've said it once, I've said it again. The Republicans have no strategy. They have no game plan. They believe in nothing except to do the opposite of what the Democrats do. And the Democrats have their own fucking issues, don't get me started. But the fact that the Republicans, besides restricting voting, restricting abortion, and talking about these made-up scenarios in schools about critical race theory and dicks getting chopped off in math class, which is not happening. They don't give a shit about gun control. They don't give a shit about the environment. They don't give a shit about healthcare. They start losing their shit over immigration, but they have no ideas on how to fix immigration. They just decry it as this is a new phenomenon. Did you know there's people coming across the southern border? Like it's never happened before. This is something new to you? Go fuck yourself. So I know we're done about politics. We're done. I teased it a little bit earlier in the podcast, but yes, I did get some ace the other day. I went out on a second date or a meetup. She didn't like the term date, so we went on one date about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. We hit it off. She is a Brazilian mother. She has a wild story. I mean, this is why I tell Americans that think that they're a victim or that they're entitled to something, that their individualism is more important than the community at large. I mean, again, I'm not sure there's worse people in the world than entitled Americans. Maybe entitled white women. That's probably the worst one, of course. Entitled American men, old men, are equally as bad, but I'd say across the board, entitled, victimhood, narcissistic, selfish, just gluttony, white American women are probably near the top, tied with boomer white men. Those are probably the two most dangerous groups in America right now. Not the Muslims, not the African Americans, not incels, not the far right. No. Those two groups, boomer white men and white women. Those are the worst. So the last couple of months, I have not had much luck with white women, surprisingly. But I have gone out with a few women of color, basically anyone who's not a white hua. Now, I talked about a date I went on, was it about a month ago? I don't know, where I was head over heels with this girl who was Mexican and a psychologist major, but it didn't work out. Around that same time, I also was talking to this Brazilian woman, and we were hitting it off. And it took a little bit longer for our schedules to match. And so we did go out to Kirkland. We had a great time, couple hours out there. We made plans to see each other again. Again, scheduling was a little bit of an issue because there is a 45 minute distance between us. But we were very open. And what I respect about her is that there's no bullshit, no games, only honesty, truth, bluntness, very good sense of humor. And I just respect her for what she's gone through in her life. Her degree is in law. She was a lawyer in Brazil before she came here. And it's not my story to tell, it's hers. So, I'll respect her in that. It's up to her to tell about her trials and tribulations and achievements in her life so far. But I was very attracted to her, not just physically, but because she was a nice, kind person, a great mother, very sexy laugh. And yeah, she's Brazilian, so she has that very sexy accent. But again, her looks were probably the third or fourth thing best about her. And let's face facts, we wanted to bang immediately, I could tell. And so we met up a second time closer to my home. We went out to a nice little sandwich deli that's later a winery, but we didn't stay for that. And we chit-chatted for a couple hours. And again, I didn't want to presume anything, although you could smell the SexyTime in the air. And I just said, I don't want to presume anything. We could end it here. If you want, you can come over. We can chit-chat a little bit at the house. I have a bar there if you just want to watch TV, or we can call it and hang out another time. She didn't want to hear anything about it. She said, no, I'll see you at your house. And then we bumped uglies, and it was great. It was great sex. I tend to have great sex as long as the partner is wanting to have great sex. This is probably the best sex I've had in probably 8 or 9 months. I've had sex in that time frame. It just wasn't, a passionate, romantic sex. It was more so, this is fun, but there just wasn't much there. And with her, she was telling me all the sweet nothings that she was whispering in my ear afterwards, which, again, not to get too personal, but I've been told countless times in the last, I would say, 10 years, that how good I am in the sack, which I haven't always been. And it's coincided with my confidence and my self-esteem getting better and my insecurities going away. They're still there, but they're not as much as I should say. I still have issues. I still have trauma. I still have problems. Don't get me wrong. But when I spent time, and I'm talking months and years, working on my self-esteem and my confidence and trying to figure out, why do I think the way I think? Why do I get nervous and anxious before sex? Sometimes I couldn't get it up. Sometimes I got it up and then I finished too quickly. And that's, a nightmare scenario for most men, as long as they have respect for their partner. Some men don't care how quick they are. It's all about them. As long as I get mine, it's all I care about. That's not me. In actuality, I get off once my partner gets off. And if I'm the only one that gets off and they don't, I do feel bad about it. I actually apologize. I strive to do better. But I would say the last couple of years, really since I turned 30, my sex game has gotten better and better and better and better because I am more relaxed with myself. And when you are relaxed and you have confidence and you have good self-esteem, odds are your little unit down there, for my male listeners, is going to react accordingly. You're not going to have an issue performance. You're not going to, end quickly. And with her and I, it was a very good session, to say the least. And yeah, we made plans to see each other again. It was great, but I must be getting old because, good God, the day after, I was so sore. And I thought, I have not been exercising like I used to in the last few months. I have taken a step back in my workout. I still do stretching, but even that, I've been stretching less and less. And I will say my diet is a little Jekyll and Hyde. Some days I do really good, some days I do really bad. When I realize I'm doing something bad, I try not to have it carry over to a second or a third day, which I will say that I have made positive steps to correct that. But I tell you, I woke up that next morning, I felt sick, I felt sore, and I felt so lethargic and tired. And, it took me about 3 days of like continuous stretching. I even took my Theragun and I was just pushing it on my inner groin and my hip flexors and my calves and even my abs. I mean, I was a fucking wreck. And I thought, Christ, do I need to have like a 30-minute stretch session before I bang? Good God, I'm only 35. And then I was reminded, when we were bumping uglies, the last time, we were almost done, I think. And I tried doing a move. I was trying to pick her up and change positions really quick. But me sitting up and holding her and kind of pulling her with me, which I've never had a problem with before, I don't know what happened, but the left side of my body, particularly the left side of my neck, like right below my ear, so that neck muscle there, connecting it to my shoulder, it kind of Charlie horse. I got such a bad cramp that I had to jump up, and I was like, oh shit, And that, I mean, that's bad. That's embarrassing. Like having a Charlie horse in your shoulder and your neck during sex. It's one thing if your back goes out, or if you tear an ACL or MCL during sex. Yeah, it's fine. You're just passionate. But your fucking shoulder and neck just starts tweaking out. I mean, it was numb. I mean, I felt like I was a hunchback. Luckily, because I have good taste in women, she immediately was like, oh, are you okay? Giving me a massage and trying to break it up a little bit. But, good luck for that. I mean, it ruined the rest of the sex there. But I think she would say what we accomplished before that was well worth the trip. Again, I'm not gonna talk myself up too much, but let's just say I haven't had a complaint in the SexyTime department in years. So I trust the game, I trust the player, I trust the league. However, the player has to get in better shape. So it's a little comical, but it's a little embarrassing. And I do know that when I have gone to physical therapy in the past, I have talked to them about sometimes after I masturbate or I have sex, my hip flexors are usually immediately sore or tight. And I've been doing hip flexor exercises like crazy. Although, like I mentioned earlier, I have taken a step back. I have gotten lazy a little bit. So I picked that back up. It's absolutely the hip flexors and then my lower back. They just get fucked up no matter what I do. I went back to work on previous Tuesday. What day is that? What's today? The 14th, and I'm recording this in the evening here. So the 12th was the first time I had been in the office in over 2 years. And I think starting early next month or late this month, the expectation is we're going to come in twice a week. People that live in Seattle or live in the city, they want to come in more than that, perfect. But my commute now is about an hour to get into Seattle from Auburn. I'm not going to be driving in 3, 4 days a week. Fuck that. So my management has approved 2 days a week for me. It's going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays. But again, it was a fun time. We had a blast, but there was a lot of sitting. I wasn't able to get up and do my stretching, particularly my eyes and my back and my neck and shoulders like I do at home. I got used to a routine. I'm just sitting for the most part of the day. And when I got home, my fucking lower back was tight and I had to do a lot of stretching and I'm just sitting. And I don't know if it's my posture or if it's just my big fucking ass and thighs that are dragging me down. Gravity is not my friend, but I really don't want to have to go back to physical therapy just so that I'm not a broken man post sex. You know what I'm saying? But no, going back to work was great. I saw the majority of my coworkers, not everyone made it in, but a lot did. We kind of kept it light. We still got my work done. We had our team meeting. We went out for a happy hour afterwards where I ate way too much food. Way too much food. Again, no self-control. When I get excited, I think I deserve all of the treats. And we went to this brewery right across the street from the office. Used to be a Japanese restaurant, now it's a brewery. And I didn't know what to expect, but the higher ups were there, so I assumed everything was going to be paid for. But I decided let's stay on the happy hour menu. And I was going to order some food, and they said, "Oh, don't worry, we're going to be bringing appetizers out." But I didn't know. Again, is it like once an hour, once every 20 minutes? What are we talking about here? The appetizers were quite good. You had calamari, you had French fries, you had pretzels, but this is the one that got me. All of those, what I just said, very standard. My mouth is watering remembering this fourth dish. They had polenta. Now, polenta is nothing special. It's just kind of, isn't it like, not, it's not grain or corn. It's corn. Cornmeal, isn't it? Polenta? Oh, son of a bitch. Let me take a look here. I think I know what polenta is for in case of the story. I think isn't it corn or rice? Polenta is a dish of boiled cornmeal. Yeah. Okay. I was kind of close. But I've had polenta a lot growing up, but it's usually like in a dish similar to like a pasta dish. But they had polenta sticks, for the lack of a better word. They look like a mix between a corn dog and a Twinkie and a mozzarella stick. That's what they look like. And they had this really good aioli dipping sauce. My mouth is fucking dripping remembering this. And I said, okay, Angelo, cut one in half and have half of one, okay? The minute I stuck that heavenly goodness in my mouth, I said, oh, I'm not going to stop at one. I must have had 6 of those polenta sticks just myself. And by the way, they were not small. They were the size of a corn dog, a good-sized corn dog, probably 6 inches long, maybe 7 inches long. I'm measuring the polenta here. And I just kept eating. I only had one drink, by the way. They made a really good old fashioned, which is becoming my favorite drink of all time, which I think it has been. Quite actually, the old fashioned, Manhattan, and a dirty martini are probably my 3 favorite like classy drinks. But if I'm just at wherever I'm at and I know I can get this drink wherever I'm at, it's still Jameson and Coke or Jack Daniels and Coke. Or if I'm feeling a little bit feminine, I'll get a nice gin and tonic or a vodka soda or something. Yeah, if I'm on my period, I'll get a cranberry juice and vodka. But no, it was a great time, but I ate way too much. And of course, I ordered a burger, a happy hour burger, before the appetizers got sent out because, I'm a fat boy at heart and I want to make sure that I'm covered in food. So I had so much food that when I came home, I was sore from sitting all day and I was sore from eating. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I'm 35 years old. I'm still sore from sex 3 days prior. And now I got gas and I feel greasy and bloated. And I look at myself in the mirror. I look like I aged 20 years that day. I said, I just shaved yesterday and I had all this disgusting hair. I'm like, anyway, it was a mess. I took care of myself since then. I cleaned myself up, but good God. But I'm not trying to sound negative here. I actually had a blast. I had such a fun time. I can't wait to show up on a more regular basis starting in a couple weeks, at least 2 days a week. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. So yeah, things are good with the ladies. Work is good. I got some more family drama going on. I have yet another uncle in the hospital. But luckily, he was able to come home after only about a day there. He had blood clots in his lungs, which killed my sister, and pneumonia. But they put him on some antibiotics. He has an oxygen tank, and he's back home. And again, it's just another teaching tool for me, anyways, that I have to keep my physical health a priority. It's just too much has been happening the last few years with my family. Everyone's fat, everybody's old, everyone's unhealthy, and I've already lost some during the pandemic, and I'm looking at a few others. I don't know how much time they got left, including, I don't want to sound dark or macabre, but I look at my parents and I'm like, Jesus, I don't know if they got 5 years left, 10 years left, probably not 10. 5 years would be good for some of them, but it's just, I get worried, you know. I was over at the old man's house over the weekend, and he overdid it, as he always does, and I was pleading with him, begging him, do not do any heavy lifting, do not do anything that requires you to bend over, do anything else, but I can take care of all that stuff. But he doesn't listen to me, and of course, I heard a string of obscenities, and I looked over, and he was on his back, kind of trying to get up, kind of like a turtle on his back. And of course, I freaked out, but he just said, "Oh, I don't need help. I don't need help." He was just mad and embarrassed. To his credit, he was able to kind of shimmy himself back up and to look at the scene like, what the fuck happened? How did I fall? Like he was a detective. And I told him, look, man, if nothing tripped you, then you just lost your balance. It happens. You're sore from your work he did a couple days ago. See, sex tires me out. Him just doing basic home maintenance tires him out. But then again, he is 74, and that's what that 40-year difference that should be the difference there. But yeah, it's not a good experience to know that your parents and your extended family are not doing good physically, and some of them mentally, all of them emotionally. But with that, I think we can move to wrap up here. So in closing, I forgot to mention anything sports related. So just quickly, Mariners, I'm not liking what I'm seeing so far. They're 2-4, 4-game losing streak. The players that I was the most unsure about are proving me correct. I thought we were putting too much on the shoulders of prospects and unproven talent. And when you look at who's been producing, those are the players that are struggling. Whereas some of the new acquisitions, which really seem like B and C level prizes, whereas the A prizes didn't want to come here. I would have loved to get that Japanese Suzuki, and he's clobbering in Chicago. I wanted Trevor Story. He's not doing too good in Boston. I wanted Chris Bryant. He's not doing too good. Oh, where did he go? I'm drawing a blank. Was it the Dodgers? I don't remember, but he wasn't doing too good. But it's still early. You know, you can't make assumptions for the rest of the season based on, 5 or 6 games. But it's still exciting. Even though Julio and Kelenic are still struggling, you expect that from Julio. But Kelenic, I thought, would be a little bit better by now. But again, it's too early. And with the Seahawks, the NFL draft is only, 2 weeks away, if that. We are still being mocked quarterbacks and bullshit players in the first 2 rounds. Again, broken record here. I think the Seahawks will trade down from the number 9 spot unless there's maybe 3 or 4 players that are still available. To me, I wish I was in the draft room. I wish I could Will Smith slap Schneider and Carroll and be like, no, here's what we're going to do. And I would prove to them that their way of doing things that hasn't worked in a couple seasons needs to be upgraded. It needs to be updated, much like the Constitution. And so I think that I would get an A+ for my draft if I was in charge. But complete nonsense. Who cares? I'm not in charge. So what's the point of even talking about it? Let's see. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, I started season 2 of the Catherine the Great comedy series on Hulu. The Great is a fun show, very unbelievable, but it is historically accurate to a point. But I like Ellie Fanning. I like Nicholas Hoult. I like the supporting cast. It's just a fun show. So if you like history and you like a little bit of light comedy and drama, and I would even say a little bit of comedic action, check out The Great. It's free. It's on Hulu. I can't wait to start Tokyo Vice on HBO. And I finished the last season of Search Party, by far the worst season of Search Party. It was agonizingly bad in some spots, but I will say the last episode was slightly better than the season, but all in all, I probably give the fifth season a D for damn, this got shitty fast. What else? Did I finish anything else? Ozark is coming back. I already said Tokyo Vice. Oh, Moon Knight. That's right. Moon Knight, I will say the first 2 episodes had me frustrated because I'm a giant fan of that character in the comics. I love Oscar Isaac. I have made my love and admiration of him very open and known on these podcasts. So many tummy tickles and tummy kisses and tummy swirls and, putting my penis in. Anyway, I made my affection for him known, is my point. But I gotta say, the first 2 episodes were pretty bad. They were the same episode, number 2 as number 1. But I will say, I watched the 3rd episode last night. It's finally getting pretty good. It's still a little, I'm still giving the whole series a C to C minus. Maybe I expect too much. Out of a 6-episode series, you have 2 of the 6 episodes just doing the same thing, just being a confused Oscar Isaac talking to himself, whereas the plot slowly moves and he's still guessing at what's happening. He's still dumbfounded. Like, do we need over an hour and a half of Oscar Isaac doing that? Or could we have had episode 1 be him figuring it out? Episode 2, you get a backstory. Then episode 3, like we just had, is when the action starts to go. But what can I say? I'm expecting too much. It's a Marvel TV show. Who gives a fuck? But I expect more, to my point. But I think we can wrap up here. My meandering is getting annoying to even me and LaFonda here. So with that, I will say I love y'all. Take it sleazy. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Don't be a cunt. And yeah, try not to judge people whose lives you know nothing about. You have not walked in their shoes. Just because they differ with one belief that you have, they're pro-life, I'm pro-choice, well then I can make up all these assumptions. Negative. Don't do that bullshit. And yeah, God help the Democrats in this upcoming midterm. I mean, we're gonna get slaughtered. I hate saying we because like I don't identify as a moderate Democrat that's currently in power, but as a progressive moderate, I'm looking at some of the leadership. Pramila Jayapal, I'm losing respect for her by the hour. Who's the other jabroni from New York? Oh, what the hell's his name? Ro Khanna. He had some bullshit statements about Joe Manchin, like he can still work with him, he still trusts him. I mean, so again, if these are the leaders, then they need to go. I would elevate Nina Turner. I would elevate Katie Porter. I mean, again, I'm not in charge of these things, but I have ideas on how I could fix them. Because I'm a white man, and if we know how to do anything, it's how to fix things for the better. Okay, with that, I think we're truly done here. So, peace out, bitches. Love ya. Squeak. Yes, LaFonda. I'll tell them. LaFonda loves you too.